I found somebody, I say you don't cross my mind. And she doesn't know that your favorite place is still mine. Now I take the long way home, avoid what I can't let go. I don't always think about you.
Hey guys, it's Ariel and welcome back. It's been like 6 months, but we won't talk about that. Today, I'm gonna go through every book that I read in 2023. I ended up reading 32 books and my goal was 50 books. And as you guys know, if you watched my last year's reading wrap up, I read a lot more books last year than I did this year. Not sure what happened, but I definitely found one of my favorite series this year, so I'm super excited, but let's go ahead and get into it. First up, I read If He Had Been With Me by Laura Nolan, and I ended up giving this 4 stars. I started off 2023 with a sad book. This is definitely very sad. It's basically about a couple who used to be friends, but they ended up separating as they got older, and it has a very sad ending, as you can tell by the cover. Yeah, this was very dark and very sad, so I started off with 2023 on a bad note. Overall, I thought it was a pretty good book, and I thought the love between Autumn and Finn was super cute, and it definitely made me sad. The next 2 books I read was Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson, and I ended up giving that away because honestly, I didn't really like it. It was basically like, I don't know how to describe it. It was about this girl who goes to a school, and there's a bunch of like mysteries that go on in the school, and she's trying to figure it out. She's kind of like investigating all of them. I don't know, I didn't really get into it, so I think I ended up giving it like a 2-star. Yeah, I wasn't really into it, so I ended up giving it away. And the next book I actually just listened to on audiobook, and this was the month, I think I watched this, let me see. This was in February, so I think I watched the Elvis movie this month. So I was super obsessed with Elvis and his relationship with Priscilla Presley. So I ended up reading Elvis and Me, which is a book actually wrote by Priscilla Presley. I ended up just listening to it. I didn't have a physical copy, but I thought it was really good. I ended up giving it a 5 stars. I highly suggest listening to it if you're interested in Elvis and their dynamic and relationship. I think she really puts a lot into perspective when it comes to him and their relationship, and I really enjoyed it. And I read Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. I think that's how you say that. I ended up reading this because I watched the movie, and oh my gosh guys, that is like, if you haven't watched this movie, it's amazing. I highly suggest it. It's one of my favorite movies. This girl that everybody calls the Marsh Girl, and it's because she's lived in the marsh her whole life, and the townspeople don't really respect her. They kind of treat her very badly, and it basically goes through her life. And there is a relationship in this book between her and, I think his name is Bo? Kaya, and I think it's Bo. I don't know, it's been a long time since I watched this movie or read this book. But I thought this book was pretty good. I do think that it was a little too much detail. I definitely prefer the movie over the book. I ended up giving it 3 stars just because I think it went into the details of the marsh a little bit too much, and it got a little boring. So the next book I ended up reading was Beautiful Disaster, and this is by Jamie McGuire. I picked this book up because I saw the trailer to it, and I really wanted to read the book before I watched the movie. Still haven't watched the movie. I did read the book, obviously, and I liked it. I mean, I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars, so not the worst rating ever. I definitely enjoyed reading it. I actually just picked it up because Dylan Sprouts was in the movie adaptation, so I really wanted to see what it was about. But it's basically like the typical like good girl bad boy trope. It has to do with Abby and Travis, and he basically like fights for money, and she's this like good girl. I think it takes place in college. I don't know, it's been a very long time since I read this. I think it was a pretty cute story. I'm not gonna lie, I do not remember a lot of this story. Next book I read was Mary Jane, and as you can see, my dog tore this up. very excited about that. But I just laid this next to him, and obviously he was hungry. But this is about Mary Jane, and this is from Jessica Anya Blau. I think I'm saying that right. And she's basically this 14-year-old, and her parents are very strict and very like by the book parenting. So this takes place in the 1970s, and she ends up babysitting for this family that is like opposite of her family. They're very wild, outspoken, and she basically spends the summer with this family. I ended up liking this book. I didn't love it. I ended up giving it a 3 stars. I thought it was cute. I definitely don't think it's one of my favorites, but when I read this, I was kind of like zoned out the whole time. It didn't really capture my attention that much. The next book I read was The Cheat Sheet, and I ended up really loving this book. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. The romance in this is so cute. This is by Sarah Adams. I definitely want to read more books by this author because this book was just so cute. It's basically about 2 best friends, and one's a ballerina and one is a football player. I love best friends to lovers. That's like my favorite trope, and this is just so cute. I found myself like giggling throughout reading this book. So basically, Nathan and Bree get exposed, and everybody on TMZ think that they're a couple because her secret got exposed, and I think she was drinking or something, and she ended up talking to this TMZ reporter and spilling a little bit too much tea. So everybody thinks that they're dating, so it's like a fake dating trope, and eventually they realize their feelings for each other. But I absolutely love this book. If you love just cute reads, I definitely would suggest this. The next book I read was Before We Were Strangers by Renee Carlino. This book is set in New York, and I absolutely love that about this. This is basically about a couple, and it goes throughout their whole relationship. They were friends, and they both kind of had feelings for each other, and eventually they end up separating and never talking to each other again, and it kind of goes through why they stopped talking to each other. And one day they meet on the subway and see each other, and all of the feelings kind of come flooding back. So it's kind of, I think it goes back and forth, I'm pretty sure, of back then to now. But I thought this was pretty good. I ended up giving this a 4 stars. Honestly, I don't remember a lot about this book. Nothing really stood out to me. As time went on, I kind of forgot a lot about what this book was about. So if I reread it, I'm sure there'd be more detail in my summary, but I still think it was pretty good, so I just suggest you guys pick it up. Next book I read was Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I gave this a 5 stars. Obviously, if you haven't watched Daisy Jones and the Six on Amazon Prime, I don't know what you're doing. One of my favorite series ever, one of my favorite TV shows ever. I definitely want to rewatch that soon because it was just so good. This is about Daisy, and she was kind of trying to launch her career, and she ends up teaming up with the Six, which is a band, and this all takes place in the 60s, and you definitely notice that. I think they hit the nail on the head with that. But this is basically in the format of an interview, and you don't know who's interviewing this band until the very end, and it just shows the rise and fall of Daisy Jones and the Six. I think it's absolutely amazing. I highly suggest it. If you haven't read this book, I don't know what you're doing. It is so good. Next book I read was Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. This is the first book in a series. I have not picked up the other, I believe it's 2 books, but I did read this one and I really liked it. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. This was very slow burn, but I really liked it. I liked how much detail it was. I liked how slow it was. It was slow burn, but it wasn't like super slow. This is small town trope, which I absolutely love. And it's about Naomi, and she basically runs to this small town after she flees from her wedding. And in this small town, she kind of gets judged at first because she has a twin sister, and her twin sister has kind of ruined this town for her. She's just a really bad person, and everybody hates her. So as soon as Naomi shows up, everybody instantly hates her, thinking that she is the twin sister when she's not. and her twin sister ends up leaving her daughter in this town. So Naomi has to kind of pick up everything that her sister dropped off. She meets this guy who is very grumpy. It's very grumpy sunshine trope. I love it so much. I love the small town trope. It's one of my favorite things, and I really suggest it. I think it's so cute. The way they fall in love is just adorable, and their banter is amazing, so I would really pick this up if I were you. Now the next book was a reread. Now I did reread a lot of books this year, or last year, and this one was Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. Absolutely favorite, as you can see, one of my favorite books ever. This was one of the first romance books I picked up after getting back into reading, and I just think it's amazing. It's basically about Archer, and he lives in this small town, another small town trope, and he doesn't really talk much, and nobody really knows why, so they all think that he's weird. And until Bree shows up, and Bree's kind of running from her past, as every girl is in a small town book. But she ends up meeting Archer, and she actually spends time with him and gets to know him, and I think it's so cute. I think they both have a lot of trauma and they both work through it together. I think it's adorable. 5 stars. It's so amazing. So amazing. The next book I ended up reading was Heartbones by Colleen Hoover. I ended up giving this a 3 stars. This is about Bea and Samson, and this takes place in the summertime, which, first of all, look at this cover. I absolutely love this cover. Not so much the skulls, but I love like just the colors in this, and I love that it's all white. But it basically says, Bea comes from a life of poverty and neglect, Samson from a family of wealth. When the two find themselves spending the summer as neighbors, they soon realize money is one of the few things they don't have in common. Their bond is too intense to ignore, but with only the summer separating them from the start of their new lives on opposite ends of the country, Bea and Samson decide to stay in the shallow end of a summer fling. What they don't realize is that a rip current is coming and it's about to drag both of their hearts to the sea. So, basically it was like a typical summer romance. There is a plot twist at the end, which I liked. This definitely wasn't my favorite Colleen Hoover book. It was pretty okay. Like I said, I gave it 3 stars, so it's pretty like mid-level, but I still enjoyed it. Next, I read 1,000 Boy Kisses because I hate myself and I want to make myself cry. This is a very sad book, and it's very huge. As you can see, it's as big as my head. I ended up giving this a 4 stars. This is about Rune and Poppy, and they're basically friends to lovers, and it goes throughout their whole relationship. It definitely has a very sad ending, so if you don't like sad books, I definitely do not suggest this book. But it says, 1 kiss lasts a moment, but 1,000 kisses can last a lifetime. 1 boy, 1 girl. A bond that is forged in an instant and cherished for a decade. A bond that neither time nor distance can break. A bond that will last forever. Or so they believe. When 17-year-old Rune, can't say his last name, returns from his native Norway to the sleepy town of Blossom Grove, Georgia, where he befriended Poppy, can't say her last name. As a child, he has just one thing on his mind. Why did the girl who was one half of his soul, who promised to wait faithfully for his return, cut him off without a word of explanation? Rune's heart was broken 2 years ago when Poppy fell silent. When he discovers the truth, he finds that the greatest heartache is yet to come. So basically, they were like best friends, and he ends up moving away, and Poppy's like, I will wait for you, I will stay in contact with you, and she ends up cutting him off completely, and we find out why, and man, is it sad. Next book I read was Happy Place by Emily Henry. I read this because this had just came out, so I wanted to read it, and I loved the cover. Look at this pink. It's so pretty. But basically, this is about a group of friends, and they usually have this like summer house, and it's their last summer together at this summer house. And this couple, Harriet and Wynn, have been together for a while, so all of their friends are kind of used to them being together. But they end up breaking up, and they go on this trip anyway without telling any of their friends. I just think this book represents friendship very well. This and I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. I love this book. I love books about friendship. There's not many good ones, and I definitely think this is good. This was a very good summer read also. So if you want to get into that summer spirit this year, I definitely recommend picking up this book. Now the next couple books I'm just gonna kind of fly through a little bit because I do have a full video on these books. I ended up reading 7 Coho books. It was like a rereading challenge to see if I still liked them as much. And the books I ended up reading for that video was Ugly Love, Regretting You, All Your Perfects, Maybe Someday, November 9, Reminders of Him, beautiful cover, and Hopeless. So I'm gonna go through the ratings I have, and I'm not gonna spend too much time on it because I do have a whole other video for it. So for Ugly Love, I ended up giving it a 4 stars. I'm pretty sure this rating stayed the same. And then for Regretting You, this is one of the less popular Coho books, and I don't know why. I absolutely loved it. I gave it a 5 stars. My feelings definitely didn't change about that. I ended up giving All Your Perfects a 5 stars also. I absolutely love this book, and I think more people should be reading it. And then I gave Maybe Someday a 4 stars. I think I had it as 5 stars before, but the big there's a trope in here that kind of ruined it for me, which knocked it down a star. If you guys know, you know. And then November 9, I ended up giving it a 4 stars. It was at 5 stars, but there's another thing that happens in this that I realized how screwed up it was. So, and then Reminders of Him stayed the same, 5 stars. Absolutely beautiful and beautiful, beautiful story. If you read any Coho book, I definitely suggest this one because it is so good. Honestly, I think that's more of an adult book than the rest of her books. It's just amazing. I love it. And then I read Hopeless. Very sad, sad book. I ended up giving it a 4 stars. I think it was a 4 stars before I reread it. And I reread it, and oh my gosh, is it sad. But if you guys want to see those books in more detail, I have 7 Coho books in 7 days. If you guys want to go watch that, I will link it below. You guys see my dog sitting, waiting for a latte? Yeah, that's her life. Next book I read was After by Anna Todd, and this is obviously a series, a very popular series. Me and my best friend were gonna buddy read it, but I kind of fell off of it. I ended up giving this at 3 stars. And fun fact, I haven't met the author of this book, but I do know I do know Anna Todd's mom. I grew up down the street from them, so there's a fun fact. Haley, shout out to you. But I love the After series. It's my guilty pleasure. The movies are so good. I just have to get through the books. I do think the first couple books are going to be a little slower, and then it kind of gets better as you read. At least that's what my best friend says. So I ended up giving this a 3 stars, and I do want to try to read the rest of the series this year. Next book I read was Icebreaker, and oh my gosh, guys, this was so cute. This is by Hannah Grace, and I think this is a series. I think the second book is out. I don't think the third book's out, but I really, really want to pick up the next books because this was so cute. This is about Anastasia and Nate, and one's a ice skater and the other is a hockey player, and they basically have to share the same rink. They ended up having to share a rink for, I think it's a couple months, I'm not sure, but they are enemies to lovers. It was so cute. Oh my god, their banter was amazing. It was so, so cute. 5 stars if I haven't said it, but oh my god. And the spice, I don't even want to talk about the spice because holy, you would think this cover didn't have spice, but definitely does. The next book I read was My Fault by Mercedes Ron. If you haven't seen this movie, I believe it's on Amazon Prime. It's called My Fault. And this is in a different language. I want to say it's Spanish. I'm pretty sure. But I watched this movie. Guys, the spice in this movie. This does have a like step siblings trope. If you don't like that, completely understand. It is kind of weird, I understand. But to me, it didn't really bother me because they had just met, like they didn't grow up together or anything. But the spice in this is immaculate. But it's about Noah and Nick, and it's they just challenge each other so much, and the comedy in this is so good. I ended up giving this a 4 stars. This book is, I think there's going to be a sequel because the movie kind of set it up for a sequel, and so does the book, and I am ready for that spice. So the next couple books are my favorite things in the world. So excited to talk about it. And that is the Chestnut Spring series by Elsie Silver. Guys, I don't even know what to say. There's Hopeless, Reckless, Powerless, Heartless, and Flawless. I definitely said that backwards, but it's fine. And first of all, these covers. So they just changed these covers, and I had to buy all of the books with this cover before they changed it. I'm sorry, I just had to because they're amazing, and the new covers, sorry, they do not compare. But basically, these books is about like a cowboy like trope. They're all cowboys, and it's all of their relationships. This one is about Bo. This one is about Theo. Well, let me go in order, maybe that might help. This is about Summer and Rhett, and all of these books are dual POV, which immaculate. I love it. It's so good. And this first book says, the rules were simple. Keep my hands off his daughter and stay out of trouble. But now I'm stuck with her. There's only one bed, and well, rules are made to be broken. It's so good, guys. Like, oh my god. So this is basically about Summer and Rhett, and Summer is basically his agent, and she's trying to clean up his image because he put it down in the toilet because he don't like milk. You have to read it, it's weird, but it's so good. This next book is Heartless, and this is about Cade and Willa, and it says, working as a nanny for the world's grumpiest single dad, it should have been simple. Except I can't keep my eyes off him, and he can't keep his hands off me. As you can see, this is a very spicy series, but oh my god, it's so good. I cannot wait to reread these. But this is basically the nanny trope, grumpy sunshine. Oh, it's so good, guys. It's so good. And then the third one is Powerless, and this is one I really looked forward to reading because it is a childhood friends to lovers trope. But this is about Sloane and Jasper. Oh my gosh, it says, 2 childhood friends, 2 broken hearts, 1 impromptu road trip to get away from everything. That's all this was supposed to be. After all, I've been living in the friend zone for years now. I love this so much. I think I gave all of these 5 stars. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, all of these were 5 stars. Reckless is a surprise pregnancy trope, so if you don't like that trope, I still suggest reading this because it is so good, guys. It's about Winter and Theo, and Winter is kind of like the cold-hearted sister because she is Summer's sister, and Summer's more of this like sunshiny person. So you go into this book knowing that, and it says Thea Silva, rowdy bull rider, notorious ladies man, scorching hot trouble wrapped up in a drool-worthy package. So he is a bull rider. She is a nurse, I believe, and this is surprise pregnancy, and it is so good. They do surprise pregnancy so well. And Hopeless is about Bo, and Bo is kind of like the grumpy brother, and you kind of learn that throughout the books. This is about Bo and Bailey, and Bailey has a lot of trauma, and so does Bo because he is an ex-military hero, so he's kind of known as a hero throughout the town. It says Bo Eaton is the town prince, a handsome military hero with a tortured past. So they just relate a lot on their shared trauma. It is so good, guys. If you guys haven't read this, I highly suggest it because I just want to reread it right now. It is so good. This is probably my favorite books to date. And this will probably go down as my favorite series. So there's that. And the last 3 books I read was Beach Read by Emily Henry. This is a very, very highly recommended book. Every time I watch a video about books, people recommend this, so I had to pick it up. I will be honest, Emily Henry is not one of my favorite authors, and I will not say that she is. But this book was really, really good. One of my favorite books by her, 5 stars. It says, Augustus Everett is an acclaimed author of literary fiction. January Andrews writes best-selling romances. When she pens a happily ever after, he kills off his entire cast. They're polar opposites. In fact, the only thing they have in common is that for the next 3 months, they're living in neighboring beach houses, broke and bogged down with writer's block. And then one hazy evening, one thing leads to another, and they strike a deal designed to force them out of their creative ruts. Augustus will spend the summer writing something happy, and January will pen the next great American novel. She'll take him on field trips worthy of any rom-com montage, and he'll take her to interview surviving members of a backwoods death cult, obviously. Everyone will finish a book and no one will fall in love, really. So basically, one is a romance author and the other is like a mystery, like realistic, like gory author. And they kind of switch tropes and they go to places to help each other write these books, and obviously they end up falling in love. I thought it was so good. I think the dynamic between Augustus and January was so good, and I honestly really, really recommend this book, and this may be one of my favorite Emily Henry books, which I did not expect. Next is Abby Jimenez, Yours Truly. I picked up this book because I found out this represents social anxiety or just anxiety in general and anxiety in a relationship, and I really wanted to read that because I do suffer with anxiety, and I just think it was cool that they put that in there, and it describes what being in a relationship with somebody with anxiety looks like. So this is about Brianna and Jacob, and they're basically both going for the same job opportunity, and at first Brianna thinks he's like stuck up because he's quiet, and she realizes that he just struggles with a lot of things, and I think it was really good just like them getting to know each other, and they both have a lot of shared trauma, so I thought it was a really good book, and I think I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was really good and really sweet, and the romance was very good, as you can see. The last book I read in 2023 was The Summer of Lost Letters by Hannah Reynolds. I ended up getting this for my boyfriend for Christmas. I think it was 2 years ago, and this is about Abby, and a box of letters show up on her doorstep, and she realizes it's between her grandma and this mysterious man that is not her grandpa. And it's basically love letters. So these letters are from a mansion in Nantucket, so she ends up taking a trip to Nantucket to kind of find out more about these letters and the story behind the letters, and she ends up running into Edward's grandson, which is the man that her grandma has been writing to all those years, and let's just say they are definitely enemies at first, and it obviously turns into a lover situation. I thought this was pretty good. Like I said, 3 stars. It wasn't my favorite thing in the world, but it was definitely very cute. I highly recommend it. And that is all for all of the books I read in 2023. Honestly, I thought I read less, but I did a lot of rereads this year. I read 32 books this year, and my goal was 50, so I didn't end up meeting the goal, but my goal will be 50 this year also, so I might reach it. I'm hoping I will. But that is going to be all for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell to get notified every time I post. I am 15 subscribers away from 1,000 right now, so I would love if I hit that goal. I am so appreciative of everybody who watches my stuff. I'm really trying to work hard at these videos, and I look forward to making new videos for you guys this year. I hope you guys enjoyed, and have a good day. Bye, guys.
'Cause sometimes I don't even know where I'm going at first. All of the turns that I had to unlearn, back to the surface, the feeling of all that we were.